Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Fives. Weird, strange, and creepy. If you like this sort of content, be sure to check out my book, A Big Book of Weird Top 10 Lists, available at the link you see on your screen. Every entry has its own website, so you can go down your own rabbit holes. Now, on with the list. Today we'll be talking about 5 bizarre unsolved murders. I want to say I am not glorifying murders, but hopefully some of this information will be helpful in trying to solve the cases involved. So let's start with number 5, Bella Thorne. Driving along the A456, also known as Hagley Road, between central Birmingham and Wolverton, Shropshire, you'll pass the border of Hagley Wood. From the road, it looks forbidding. It's easy to think of a gothic heroine trapped in the shadows of the trees as dark falls, misty and menacing. And of course, naturally, it's home to a mystery that's endured since the early 1940s. On April 18th, 1943, 3 boys were hunting birds' nests and they spotted an enticing wych elm, which is one of the most common breeds of European elm trees. Now, this tree's trunk was wide, virtually hollow, and one boy climbed in. He looked down, and through a knothole, he saw a skull. There was hair attached to the skull and what was inarguably human teeth. Evidently, somebody's body had been stuffed inside the tree. Now, the boys didn't notify the police right away. After all, they'd been trespassing. But finally, one of them did. Along with the skull, investigators found most of a skeleton, a wedding ring, and a shoe. In the skull's mouth, they found crumpled taffeta. Forensics revealed that she'd been smothered and then hidden inside the tree, almost immediately after her death. In 1944, someone scrawled graffiti on a wall in Birmingham. Who put Bella down the wych elm? The same question has appeared over and over, sometimes written as who put Bella in the wych elm, since the 1970s. In the 40s, one theory suggested that witches sacrificed Bella in a ritual. It was wartime, so it was possible she might have been a spy or a woman who knew too much. But to this day, no one really knows, including the police. This mystery might remain unsolved forever. Number 4, the Springfield Three. On June 6, 1992, Suzanne Streeter, Stacy McCall, they just graduated from high school. They'd been at a party until just after about 2 a.m. when they headed into the night for Suzanne's home. Stacy, Suzanne, and Suzanne's mother, Cheryl Levitt, were never seen again. Now, the disappearance of one person might be intentional. Maybe they just wanted to begin a new life somewhere new. You never know. But the disappearance of two teenage girls and one of their mothers is obviously something else altogether. It's obvious from the beginning that whatever happened probably happened fast. There were no signs of struggle, yet everything someone might take with them was still there: purses, clothes, cars, cigarettes, and even a dog. The last anyone heard from Levitt was a phone call around 11 p.m. the night of the 6th. She was likely asleep before she and the girls left, as it was obvious she'd gotten out of bed. So all three of them vanished into the night sometime after 2 a.m. There is still a $42,000 reward for any information that leads to finding whoever kidnapped Cheryl, Suzanne, and Stacy. Whether that reward will ever be claimed is anybody's guess. Number 3, the Snapchat murders. On February 13th, 2017, Liberty German, age 14, and her 13-year-old friend Abigail Williams managed to photograph and even record the voice of their killer. Yet over 3 years, the case still remains unsolved. The girls were on the Delphi historic trails doing what 8th graders do: snapping pictures, posting them on social media, having a good time. At some point, they might have noticed a heavyset man nearby. One of them had the presence of mind to take his photo. His head was bent, he was wearing a cap, walking with his hands in his pockets. Once he was close enough, German caught one more clue: a man's voice, tone flat, saying, "Down the hill." Sometime after that, she and Abigail were murdered. Police have released very little about the investigation. They've said they had DNA, and more than once indicated they felt very close to solving the mystery. Daniel Nation, the man arrested in Colorado, has been mentioned as a person of interest, but he's never been arrested. What's left, as of the time that I'm recording this, are just threads of a mystery that seem close to a solution, but isn't there. At least, unlike many of these cases, there's still some time to figure it out. If anybody has any information, please contact the authorities. Number 2, the murder of Arliss Perry. That night in Palo Alto, Arliss Perry was just 19 and married to Bruce Perry, whom she'd met in high school. Bruce was a sophomore at Stanford. Arliss, she was a receptionist. On October 12, 1974, the scene goes from merely odd to a very surreal nightmare. Bruce said they'd argued. Then Arliss left, saying she wanted to pray by herself at Stanford Memorial Church. But in the middle of the night, a worried Bruce called the police to report that Arliss hadn't come home and told them where she was. When they checked, the church was locked and everything looked fine. However, a few hours later, a security guard entered the church and found Arliss on the floor, not far from the altar. She was on her back, a 5-inch long ice pick jutting from her head. She'd been strangled. A large candle lay on her chest. She was nude from the waist down, and a second candle had been inserted into her genitals. Of the people who were in and out of the church that night, one was never identified, and the resemblance between that unknown man and a strange visitor to Arliss's workplace was significant. Her husband, Bruce Perry, was quickly ruled out as a suspect. While no less than the Son of Sam serial killer, David Berkowitz, claimed some kind of knowledge of the case, investigators concluded he had no involvement. Theories have frequently included some kind of satanic ritual, which in this case sounds logical given the position of the body. A religious group with links to Charles Manson was considered as well. But no one knows what really happened that night, except that it was the stuff made for horror movies. On a side note, the police say that they think they have solved the case and that the man responsible was the security guard that actually found her body that night. They say they have DNA evidence, and when they went to arrest him years later, he lay on his bed and committed suicide by shooting himself in the head. Now, others say that although the man was a good guy, very soft-spoken, he wasn't known for any acts of violence. He'd been in trouble with the law. He'd stolen some things from the church as a security guard. But overall, nothing satanic, nothing that would indicate that he could commit this kind of horrific crime. So did the authorities get the right man? Has this case actually been solved? Well, the only person that actually knows may be deceased as well. So we may never know. Number 1, Blair Adams. Now, if you've ever watched Unsolved Mysteries in the 1990s, you may be familiar with the unsolved murder of Blair Adams. It's really hard not to forget. It's a strange one. On July 11th, 1996, Blair was found dead in a hotel parking lot in Knoxville, Tennessee. Almost $4,000 in cash was flapping and flying around him. And it was an odd mix of currencies, bills from his native Canada, where he was from, American dollars, and even German Deutschmarks. Before his death, Blair seemed like a man on the verge of a meltdown. He was paranoid, telling people close to him that someone wanted him dead. He had mood swings, and some compared it to typical bipolar disorder. He withdrew the money from his bank on July 5th and added expensive jewelry to the mix. He then attempted to cross into America but was stopped because that much cash spelled that spelled drug mule to the Border Patrol. He rerouted and bought a plane ticket to Germany, which he didn't use. Instead, Blair made another run at a border crossing and succeeded in crossing into Seattle. Then he made another weird move and flew to Washington, D.C., where he rented a car and made his way to Knoxville, Tennessee. Witnesses said he seemed unnerved, like a man in crisis. Was it real? Was it psychological? Who knows? We do know that he was murdered sometime around 3 a.m., possibly by a club, something heavy enough to kill when being beaten on the head. Blair Adams' murder is the coldest of cold cases now. Even though police found hair from someone else in his hand and managed to mine it for DNA, there was never a match. We just have a man far from home, dead in the night, and all the answers went with him. That does it for this edition of The Fives. I want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to support my work, there's a link you see on your screen. All those links are also down below. You can join my Patreon for as little as $5 a month. You can send me a donation through PayPal, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/DDC and buy me a beer. Every donation is very much appreciated. And remember that all the donations support free education here in Cambodia as well. So it's a worthy cause. Again, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.